Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Great Black Speakers Podcast, where we connect through conversation. I am your host, Lawrence Watkins. I am the founder and CEO of Great Black Speakers Bureau. I'm also the president and chief operating officer of the Black Business School. And today we have a very special guest. We're here with Dante Stevens. Dante is the founder and CEO of CEO Mindset. It is a company that helps entrepreneurs move from frustrated to free using business coaching. And yeah, he's going to just talk all about that. He comes from, I guess, a blue collar background and career. We're going to talk about, if you're in a service-based business, how do you get your freedom? So today we're talking about blue collar business freedom with Dante. So Dante, how are you doing today?
Man, I'm great. I'm great, man. Thanks for having me, Lawrence.
Yeah, it's my pleasure, man. So can you tell the audience a little bit about your company and how you've gotten to this point in your career?
All right. Well, like you said, man, the name of my company is CEO Mindset LLC. What we do is we help mainly service-based entrepreneurs go from being frustrated to free in their business. And what we offer is one-on-one strategic business coaching and trainings to help these individuals to develop the mindset that they need and the strategies and give them the encouragement to take action to gain that freedom and get that freedom and back in their life, man, so they can live the entrepreneur dream like it was designed for us to be able to live it.
All right. So how did you even come up with this idea? Like, have you always wanted to do business coaching, but what did you do before you started CEO Mindset?
Like you said in the title, man, it's blue collar. I got a blue collar background. So my business before CEO Mindset, I was actually in the home technology AV business. And I've been in that business for 10 plus years. And I've been through every phase of that business, from starting out in the infancy stage where I was super excited, perfecting my craft on doing installs from TVs to home theaters to cameras and all of that stuff, until I got to the point where the business started growing, meaning that I had clients, a bunch of clients coming in, and my capacity was just diminishing. And that's when I started getting frustrated, couldn't really, it was hard to manage the business because it was so dependent on me and the great work that I was doing for my clients, and everybody was depending on me. And I was able to shift from that to getting my business to a place where I was able to hire people and have people to do the work for me. So being able to scale and grow my business that way. But when I got to the phase where I started scaling my business, I started noticing something started happening around that time with me really taking a leadership role and really going into leadership and being able to build and scale a team in terms of business. And by nature, I've always been a motivator, right? So I love to motivate people. I didn't know, I'm a big believer in God. I didn't know that, in my younger years, man, he was preparing me for this day in this seat that I sit in now. But I coach youth league football and stuff like that. So the way I used to coach them guys and teach those guys is the same thing I do inside of my business, and start in terms of motivating my team, getting people to play at a high level. And I just realized there was something inside of me that was burning, to be honest. And it got to a point where I made a decision, I made a pivot, and I ended up here as a CEO Mindset coach, where I'm now helping other entrepreneurs to do the same thing, because I gained a lot of freedom, and I've done some amazing things throughout my career.
Oh, you made this pivot, right? So you have left the previous business with, I guess, AV and home installations, that type of thing, and pivoted to the CEO Mindset. Talk about that a little bit in regards to, so how much were you making with the previous business?
We got that business up to 500K. So, and that was really in 1 year. Like, I've been in the industry over 10 plus years, but it was as a solo entrepreneur. And by the time I got into my last company, which was New Wave Automation. I got into that through a partnership. And that partnership lasted almost 2 years before I finally made the decision to exit out. But we had one strong year because we started in 2018, but it was towards the tail end. So we didn't get a full year. I was still operating that under my previous company. But that we got one full year, 2019, in with New Wave, and we was on a scale. We was on a, I mean, we was operating as a 7-figure company easily with the systems and processes and the things that we were putting in place. And in that 1 year, we grew and scaled it to 500,000, and we had we had 2 full-time employees and as many as 8 subcontractors with us to hold down the fort. So we was doing some amazing things. It's just sometimes in life you get a different calling and you get pulled. Sometimes your plan is not the plan. You know what I mean? And I was faced in one of those situations. Like I said, I got a lot of years in that industry, and I was forced with having to make a decision, and I had to make a decision on purpose and calling, because what I had done in that industry was done. That was a wrap for me at that point.
Gotcha. So you had a $500,000 a year business, scaling up to probably 7 figures in the very near future, as well. Especially since everyone's being at home now, working, that type of stuff. I'm sure, installations for new offices and other types of things, and entertainment was, continuing to increase. But you decided to go a different direction because of, I guess, your calling. So talk about like the difficulty, or like how difficult was it to make that pivot, and what emotions are going through your mind as you're going through this pivot to this new venture?
The pivot was tough, but I think it was more tough. It was tougher from the standpoint of having uh, to let the people around me, like, the feeling of letting people around me down. I had a team who was dependent on me. I had a business partner dependent on me. But what I like to talk about a lot in CEO mindset, what I try to do is help people go from frustrated to free. What we don't really understand is that when we're frustrated in our business, it means we're doing too much. And what I've learned is that back at a particular time in my business during my journey, I was so frustrated where I was burning out, and I burned out to the point where I literally burnt out to the point of no return. And by the time I started making the pivot, or making the switch to actual CEO and not technician in my business, I was gassed up. I was fueled off the business part, off the stuff that I didn't know. So when all the dots started to connect, I did that last year and a half, 2 years in New Wave, just off of fuel, off the business that I was, off of me elevating to the next level. But what I didn't know is that I was just putting a band-aid on the actual problem. I never dealt with the problem itself. And the problem was that when I was frustrated and when I needed help, I was burning out, but I didn't know what burnout was. And I burned out past that threshold where I couldn't come back. So what that looks like is all of your passion gets stripped away from you. Now you don't have the desire to do that anymore. So if you think back when you first started your business, how passionate you was about it, how excited you was about it, all of these good emotions and all of that around your business. Just imagine that being stripped away from you, like somebody stole it. So now I'm having to deal with the realization of I don't care about what I do anymore. And when it came down to my pivot, when it came down to my decision, I had to make a decision on my peace. And that was the final straw. And I had some moments, man. Now, I'm not gonna say this like it was an easy transition. I had some moments, because you got to think, hey, I got, this is income that I feed my family with and all of that stuff. And now all of this come to a halt. But I had to choose my peace over everything. And then at the same time, I had been positioning myself, working in what I call my calling, my purpose. I have been pouring into so many people. I've been giving so much business advice to people. I've been helping so many people. And that fulfillment is what I live for. I wasn't getting fulfilled in my business anymore. I feel like you shouldn't do anything that don't bring you joy and fulfillment. And I feel like I've learned so much on my journey in that business, in that industry, but that time is up. So I had to go out on a limb and take a leap out on faith, and I did it, and I didn't regret it one bit, man. So I'm here doing what I love.
Yeah, and I think, if you're in any industry for a certain amount of time, you're going to experience a certain level of burnout and not wanting to do the same old thing. I experienced that with Great Black Speakers. Even though it's, my first child, my first baby, most of my time and energy is spent working and growing the Black Business School and Financial Juneteenth and other types of, I guess, brands that we've developed over the last 15 years or so. So I guess, my question is, so when did you experience this burnout? This is a recent phenomenon in terms of experiencing this burnout. Is that correct?
Well, it is. So with you asked me when did I start experiencing it, or
Yeah. So when did you start experiencing the burnout? So is the burnout what led you to start the CEO mindset? Is that, I guess that's what I'm asking.
yeah, the burnout was a big part of it, a big part of the reason. But I think all of it led up to this for a reason. Like it all happened for a reason. It wasn't until like I'm real big on my own personal development. Like if you know me, you follow me, you know that I am a really big personal development, self-care type of guy, right? So through meditation and doing these things, really learning self-mastery and controlling myself and my thoughts and my mind, like through those things, just being more aware, what it did is allowed me to go back to do the work to figure out what I was experiencing. Because at the end of the day, I was experiencing things throughout my career. And as a man, most of us, what we do, we sweep stuff up on the rug, right? We just say, hey, this is how I'm feeling this way, but don't worry about it, man. Sweep it up on the rug and keep pushing. And that's what I was doing. Every day I kept pushing. And basically I got to a point where I couldn't push no more. But the what happened like a couple years before me deciding to leave and make that pivot, I had already started making a pivot. So there was something inside of me already with burning. Like I had this desire to speak. I had this desire to motivate. I had this desire to teach and inspire people. But I kept pushing that to the back. Like, no, I can't really do that. I'm doing this. But as I continued to start pushing to do this other thing, the forces was against, like the force was real, man. The resistance was real because I'm trying to make myself do this, but I really want to be here.
Mm-hmm.
And at some point, what happened was I couldn't fight the resistance anymore. It had got so bad internally where I couldn't fight it anymore. And by the time I made the decision to pivot, if you want to be perfectly honest, I made the pivot late. You know what I'm saying? I made the decision late because by the time I made the decision, the way I went about making the decision wasn't the right way. So it brought some emotions up and stuff like that because it was kind of like, I'm out, I'm done. It was that bad. You see what I'm saying? It wasn't no round.
Yes. Yes, I want to talk about that a little bit more, right? So, I mean, I've experienced the same thing. When I pivoted away a little bit from Great Black Speakers, I was truly burned out from working, I guess, with corporations in that type of way. The speakers that I was booking, mainly celebrities, it was just a drain on my spirit. It did not align with, what I truly believed and, how the world should work. I know that, one of the things that I'm very passionate about is the study of power. Power for from the Black perspective and the African American perspective, but thinking about it from a very systematic, point of view that hasn't really been explored, very, I guess, in an in-depth type of fashion, right? So that's where I'm headed, and I see myself headed there, more and more over time. But I guess, my question is, you are pivoting, and this might be a difficult question to ask. Why? I guess a couple things. Why should people listen to you, right? In terms of your new mindset, in terms of where you're headed with the CEO mindset, if they're experiencing burnout, if they're experiencing, I guess, faulty business systems, that type of thing. Why are you the person, I guess, to listen to in this case? If you made that pivot away from, I guess, the service-based types of businesses, since that's who I think you're mainly, who you're mainly targeting. And then what would you tell someone who's experiencing that burnout to take things off of their plate, to have a better, I guess, work-life balance, to have a better, operating system in their businesses so that they can even avoid burnout in the first place?
Exactly. All right. So the first thing I would say why you should listen to me is because I've been through it. I've been through it in its entirety from the whole journey. So one of my favorite books is a book called The E-Myth by Michael Gerber. And in that book, they talk about the 3 phases of business. They talk about the infancy phase, the adolescent phase, and the maturity phase. And the infancy phase in a nutshell is when you're the most excited. It's the new idea. It's the, you found this skill, you learned this skill and you ready to move forward with it. And you do everything you got to do to perfect it. Then you get to the adolescence phase. That's the phase where you start realizing, oh shoot, you wake up in the morning. I'm not a, I work for, like I have a job. I work for myself. I can't do the simple things like go eat lunch with my kids at school. Because if I do that, the business stops. You know what I mean? The clients are calling my phone. They calling me late night in the morning, late on the weekends, all of this stuff. It's like you realize like, hey, this is not the way business should be. And then the maturity phase, if you're lucky enough to get to the maturity phase, is the phase that you finally figure it out. It's the aha phase. Like, I get it. That's what I was supposed to be doing, right? So I've been through all three of those phases. Every single one, I lived through it. Now, what happened was in that adolescent phase is usually where burnout lives. But what happened in my burnout phase, if I would have got help quicker, I probably still would be in my business now. The problem is not that I left my business and pivot to something else and whoop the whoop. The problem is that I didn't get help soon enough. So by the time I got help, I went to a conference. So by the time I went through my burnout, I went to a conference. I attended that conference. By going to that conference, I joined a mastermind. Never knew what a mastermind was, but I knew I needed some help. And to be honest with you, the help that I thought I needed was like, oh, I need help around sales. I need help around getting teams, like the surface level help stuff. But I didn't know at that time I needed like help, like coach help, like somebody to help me navigate through what I was feeling, what I was going through. So it took me, after joining this mastermind, it took me a whole year to get my mind right to understand what was actually going on. And then when I started my personal development and self-care journey, that's when I started becoming aware. That's when I started doing the self evaluation and going back and doing some inventory on myself and started going way back from when I started and then started doing the like sequence of events, figuring out what was what. And then I had to get to the point where I had to realize that these feelings was real. I didn't like my business no more. You know what I mean? Like, I'm being straight up. Guys, I didn't like my business anymore. I hated it. I hate for people ask me about certain things it's like triggers. And the triggers are so bad where you would sabotage bro, if I would have stayed in that business one more day, I would have sabotaged everything.
Yeah, man, I understand. I understand what you're feeling, man. I understand what you're feeling because I'm thinking when you mentioned those triggers, there are a couple of trigger questions for me. It's like, or it's just statements that people make. It's like, oh, I have a speaker that, I know this one guy. He's an excellent speaker, man. You should have him on the bureau or whatever. Or, what do I need to do to become, I guess, a professional speaker or just like those types of questions, man. If I could just run when I hear those questions, just like drop everything in my hands and just run the other way. Like that's the type of triggers that I would get, when asked about, I guess, the speaking industry, because by the time I really left it and not working on it every single day, I hated it so much. I just hated I hated being in that industry like so much. And it's something I don't really ever, publicly talk about, but I guess you're bringing it out of me today. So I've definitely been there, and yet I still talk about it as it's a part of my identity because it was the first business that I started, and I still like the brand in certain types of ways. I just hated booking speakers for events. I just don't like it. I just didn't like it. So no, I definitely understand. I want to explore that a little bit more after this quick break. So I'm here with Dante Stevens, everyone. Dante is the founder and CEO of CEO Mindset. It is a company that helps entrepreneurs move from frustrated to free using business coaching. If you like what we're talking about today, please go ahead and press the thumbs up button. Show us some love so that YouTube's algorithm shows us some love as well. Please make sure that you also share and subscribe to the Black Financial channel if you would like to receive more financial content like what we're producing here today with Dante. So Dante, let's go I guess into that a little bit more, right? You're talking about help, and if you could receive the help that you needed, you probably would have been in your same business in a happier type of place. A lot of entrepreneurs, they leave the corporate plantation because they feel like they don't want to have another job. And yet, for a lot of entrepreneurs and business people, they end up creating another job without all the benefits that they have from that they had before. They're freelancing or whatever, so they created another type of job for themselves without all the benefits that they had from working on, I guess, the corporate plantation, right?
Right.
So talk about this in terms of, you mentioned, moving from technician to CEO in your business as well, and that holds a lot of people back. Let's talk about, I guess, these fundamentals piece, like first in terms of the system that I need to set up, and then we'll go back into the mindset piece of what you do with your new company. So talk about, I guess, how you have received help with the fundamentals of, I guess, business development and systems creation, that type of thing.
Exactly. Okay. So when I did get the help that I needed, that's when the business kind of started kicking in and the aha moment came about. And I realized like I was doing way too much in the business. Like everything depended on me. My hands was touching everything. And the clients was only used to me. And everybody was tied to Dante. And what I quickly realized was that I had to get out of the mix, and I had to get out of the mix quick and fast because the business would never grow if I was there at the helm. If I was there, not at the helm, but if I was there in it, like I was in the weeds. So the first thing I did, I said, hey, I got to start firing myself from certain things. You know what I mean? So the way that looks is like, hey, now you got to look at how you can bring some people in, use some subs or use some people around you to start getting some of this stuff off. So the very first thing I started doing was documenting what I was doing, because a lot of the work that I was doing from a technician standpoint, I can get a camera or something and record a lot of the stuff that I was doing. So I started getting into the mode of training people how to start doing some of the lower end tasks that I was doing. I know there was still some high because I did some of the high priority stuff like the programming, integrating systems and stuff like that. So it wasn't as easy to shift that off my plate. But if I can get a lot of the small stuff off, that can start freeing up some time. So that's what I started doing. That was the first thing we did. Start recording what we were doing, building some processes around the actual work getting done so we can get people in and do the work. Hire some subs, hire some people that was already doing some of the work you were doing so you can gain your time back by them going to do the work. And then, so that started shifting to the CEO because now I'm starting to look at the business totally different. I'm like, oh, so this is how this works. That's when you start moving from self-employed to business owner. You know what I mean? Like that's a big difference. Self-employed, you clock in for you and you do all the work. Business owner have other people clock in for you. You let them do the work. You know what I mean? So that's when I start shifting to CEO. So now my mind, I got an engineering mind, right? My mind is set up that way. My mind is set up for systems. So now I started applying the same principles I was using in business in terms of programming systems, because that's what ultimately that's what I did with program systems for your home automation and stuff like that to work. I just applied that principle to business. So so I said, okay, what are the systems we need so that things can run predictable? Like you want a predictable way of running business. Look at Chick-fil-A. You go to Chick-fil-A, they operate the same way every time. Don't nothing change. When you get through getting your order, they say my pleasure. That's one thing I look for them to do. If somebody don't say it, I'm thinking, like, hold on, something wrong, something broken in the system, because the system allows the people to flow along. It's not people dependent, it's system dependent. So I started implementing those type of things in my business. So basically as a CEO, you start rising above and start looking at your business from the top down instead of from inside of it, because you can't see your business that good when you're in it. And that's what I had to end up realizing. Like you can't operate your business from within. You have to operate your business from the top down. So the very, very first system, outside of just documenting what I was doing to free up my time, the very, very first thing I put in my business was a money management system. That was the very first thing I did, because what I realized is that most entrepreneurs mismanage their money so bad where they can't even remove themselves out of the weed. They can't hire anybody. They can't get ahead because they mismanaged the funds so badly. And I had to deal with that firsthand. Because I used to go through these ups and downs with cash flow and like, what is going on? Like, but what I realized, I was that guy that was taking $20,000 that we, of revenue the company had, not even thinking about cost or nothing. I look at it all as profit. And I take $15,000, put it in my personal account, and take 5,000, put it in the business account, and then the next day wonder where all the money went. Because the business still need money. You sucked all the money, drained all the money out of the business. Everybody know when you put that money in your personal account, they're just like, you might as well just flush it down the toilet, because that money not gonna last. All the eating out, the
and
shop,
it ain't going back into your business account either after it's over in your personal.
it ain't gonna come back, right. So that was the very first thing that I got, and I teach that now in my in my coaching program. That is the fundamental thing that I teach in my coaching program now, because so many entrepreneurs are messing up just from a money standpoint. I had a client that that said, before he signed on with me, he said, man, how am I supposed to hire somebody? I don't have the money to hire anyone. We went through my went through my what I call the freedom formula, because we want to know what your freedom number is. See, people don't even know what the freedom number is. Your freedom number is the baseline income that you need in your business to be able to support your vital needs. What are your vital needs? That's what it's going to take, basic minimum to take care of your household. What it's going to take to operate your business. What it's going to take for payroll. What it's going to take for your taxes every year. And what, as you as an owner, what is your percentage you're going to get from your company? Because you owe yourself a percentage. That's another thing we lose sight on. But I took him through this formula. I showed him how it worked. We set everything up for him. I got him to send me about 5 of his profit and loss reports from the jobs that he done. He's in the AV business, service-based business as well. I stripped away his margin from the products. The guy was making bank on this. Like, the guy was getting over 55% on every job after he moved the cost. So I put his highest producing product amount into my formula. He had $115,000 job. I put that in my formula, stripped away all the BS from it. It gets down to those 5 needs that I told you about. Guess the guy had almost $30,000 to pay somebody just from that one job. And when he saw that, that's when he was like you go into a place of depression, because you don't realize how bad you was really mismanaging the money. And nobody ever teaches us how to do this. When we get into entrepreneurship, we go in this thing with a really good skill. We're really good at what we do, and we go off 100 miles and running, doing something we're really good at, and only perfecting what we're good at. But we never get the business acumen. Nobody pulls us to the side and say, hey, this is the roadmap. Because no matter what business you're in, service-based product, I don't care what you're in, business is business at the end of the day. So if you don't know, you have to understand what that roadmap looks like. So if I could come in as the spokesperson of somebody who burnt out past the threshold of burnout, I ain't talking about your regular burnout. Everybody burns out, right? But I'm talking about past burnout where you don't even like what you do no more. No, it ain't even like, you hate it, right? Hate is a strong word, man.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Right? But I want to help people prevent them from getting there, because I think it's unfair. And I think it's unfair because nobody sat me down and said, hey, Dante, this is what's going to happen if you continue to operate the way you're operating. Nobody pulled me to the side, right? I didn't have a community of people around me. So if you're listening to me right now, get you a community. Even if you're feeling frustrated, the first thing you can do, get in a community. You can't hang around your 9-to-5 friends telling them about your business problem. They can't help you. Get in a community of like-minded individuals. That would be the first start, because then you will have somebody to lean on. Then you guys can figure it out, and you guys can finally make the decision to get some coaching and get some help. But at the end of the day, you got to get help. Nobody does this thing alone. So I hope that answered your question on that one. Got a little fired up.
We're here with Reverend Dante Stevens over here
You brought it
preaching the
out, man.
gospel,
I'm trying to contain it a little bit, man.
preaching the gospel of business. Dante is the founder and CEO of CEO Mindset, a company that helps entrepreneurs move from frustrated to free using business coaching. I put the link to his new Facebook page in the chat. So it's just CEO Mindset LLC. That is CEO Mindset LLC. Please make sure you give this brother some thumbs up on YouTube. The more that you show him some love, the more that YouTube's algorithm shows us some love, and more people will be able to see this interview. Please make sure that you share this link and also subscribe to the Black Financial Channel if you would like to receive more financial content like the content that we're producing here today with Dante. So Dante, we're going to go into our last segment, and I want to talk a little bit more about blue collar careers, right? So quote unquote blue collar, service industry, that type of thing. Let's talk about that with the Black community, right? And because for a 50-year period of time, maybe even longer than that, there was a huge push for people to go get, liberal arts degrees or engineering degrees or something like that, go to a 4-year college, a 4-year university, that type of stuff to advance in this world, to, get the good job, that type of thing. But I think what we're finding is that, with the crash of just, the coronavirus and, the market, or the market's not crashing, but the coronavirus and college education, higher education, a lot of these investments have left many people in our community with crushing debt that's going to be hard to overcome unless there's some type of assistance. So what is your educational background? Did you go to a 4-year university?
I actually went to a tech school.
So you went to a tech school. There was this big stigma around, I guess, going to vocational school, that type of thing, in our community for many, many years. Talk about that a little bit more in terms of what you're seeing in the actual market with techs, the job prospects, and the opportunity for, I guess, business by learning, a skill such as, AV installation, that type of thing. So talk about that a little bit more from your perspective.
Yeah, from my perspective, man, even with the state of everything that's going on, the state of the world right now, I am a big advocate for people going and learn a skill. Um, I know when I was coming up and I was coming out of school, a lot of my classmates, they was going to school for like business management and, certain things like some things that took like 4-year degrees and stuff like that. And I know I tried that when I came out of school, and I just couldn't see the attachment. Like I said, my mind is an engineering mind, so it got to like the dots got to connect for me, and I just couldn't see me advancing in something like business management or something. Like I know what I could do around it, but it just wasn't clear enough for me. So that's when I went down a tech route, and I went to a 2-year school and went and learned electronics and computers. And the reason why is because I could see myself, in my decision making process. It was like, okay, hey, I can either work for somebody doing this, or I can work for myself doing this, right? So there was I can go either way with the decision. And so I always tell people, like, I think if you're looking for a career, go into tech. Go into something that you can learn, not even just tech, but just some skill trade. Learn a skill trade, because that's something nobody can take away from you. Like, so if you got electricians, you got plumbers, you got HVAC, you got AV. Like in the industry that I was in, AV, like, how many companies are looking for qualified technicians? And you talking about minimum, if you got skill, these guys will pay you at minimum, depends on where you live, $20. Even just for a helper, you're probably around $15, $16 just to help. But if you can learn how to pull wire, you can learn you can learn how to hang TVs and install systems and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like, and then if you can learn a programming piece to it, it's even more. Like one of my clients now, man, he does the high-end programming stuff where you can make anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000 just to write a program for somebody. You know what I mean? So it's a lot of money. But the problem is in our not in our generation, but in our community, there's not a lot of us, especially in AV. So for me, it was hard for me to leave the industry, because it was like, hey man, like I really, really wanted to make a difference in our community in regards to this industry, to bring more Black people into this industry. Now, luckily that my company is still going and is still ran by a Black, individual. So that still works out. But I want to have some kind of impact on that, right? But we're not in that field, and we're not operating and running businesses like the way we should be in those type of fields. So, but another thing is, a lot of us don't even know that these jobs exist, because a lot of the white companies are still, hiring their people. They may get one or two of us in that area now, but we're not going into these jobs learning the skill. I'm not against you going to work for them or whatever, but I'm thinking, man, this is a skill that you can come in, you can learn, and you can break away and start your own AV company, or start your own electrical company, your own HVAC company, and then start employing your own people, because the skill would never go away. Like, you can take these jobs from people all day, but the skill won't go away. So that's what I would like to see in terms of my experience. That's what I've seen in the industry that I'm in, and it's across the board, because I have to work with HVAC companies, electrical people like that. Everybody kind of have the same struggle, and it's usually the struggle is just finding qualified technicians. They just don't have good techs. But if we can start utilizing our skills and helping some of these younger, African Americans to start learning these skills and learning this trade, then we can get more into the industry. But I 100% believe that we need to get more people to go to the skill trade route, because that would give you the opportunity to say, hey, I can either work for somebody or work for myself. Because a lot of these other jobs, they're not going to last. You're not even going to make as much money that you can make. Even if you work for somebody, you can still do your own thing on the side. So it's
Right.
so, you can do so much when you take a skill. And I'm a big believer, especially with everything going on right now. Do some engineering, do some tech, do something, man. I think that's the best route to go.
Yeah, I mean, it's something I think a lot about too, right? Because my background is in electrical engineering, but I ain't never been near no wires. I don't even like. I'm actually a little afraid of electricity, to be honest with you, to a certain degree of being electrocuted. But you asked me to run some wire or something like that. I feel like I think that I didn't really get the skills necessary in college to actually do that particular job. Now, college gave me other types of skills, like the ability to do calculus, which actually I use on a regular basis to think about systems, to do a lot of other things on that particular front. But in terms of like a hardcore skill that I could have taken to the marketplace and have been successful from day one, I think that I was failed in that manner as it relates to, I guess, like a college type of degree. And yet there's still, I guess, this stigma, right? The stigma around, I guess, quote unquote blue collar service, professionals, that type of thing. How do we as a community go about removing that stigma? And then I guess my next question is, what are some of the skills that you see, I guess, on the ground that are in demand now and that will be in demand in the future?
Well, how we remove the stigma is, we just got to get our people thinking on a much bigger level. Like, I just don't think we're basing our decision off of somebody else. We're not coming to our own, like, we're not sitting down thinking, okay, what do I want? What do I like to do? Some people may not just be skilled, like they may not be a skilled person. But here's the thing around skill though, like even what you were saying with electrical, being an electrical engineer, is that sometimes your skill is here. So if you can understand the hardware, if you can understand what's going on, you can use your brain. You can be more of a consultant. So you may not do none of the wiring, Lawrence, but you can still use your systems, mind front, the way you look at systems. You may just draw it out so somebody else can do it. See, people don't know they're leaving a lot of money on the table. You go out and you learn the skill so that you can apply so you can apply what you've learned, and go and you can actually be sitting in an office somewhere just designing. Like, some people just design, program. Everybody's not good with being hands-on. But if you want to be in something that's going to be fulfilling, that's going to last, you ain't got to worry about you losing your job. Even if you lost your job, you can still go sell consulting. if I know electrical engineering, if I know how to do not a blueprint, but a schematic around a house wiring or something like that, and if I can sell that service to an architect, that's, I mean, that's a skill. Everybody don't have the skill, so you have to find a skill, hone that skill, and learn it. That's what I did. I started out hanging TVs. I didn't start out knowing. I started out hanging a TV. Went from hanging TV to learning how to do cameras, to do home theater, learn all the nuances around AV to the point where I'm doing all the programming stuff, learning how to quote these jobs out. There's a skill in everything you're doing. So we need to pull the stigma off of blue collar, thinking that this is not the route to go. You should get a 4-year degree. Yeah, that's cool to get I know people who got 4-year degrees and stuff and still not working in that field. Because what happens is you go get the 4-year degree, but you still don't have the experience. Versus you can skip the 4-year degree. If you want to, go get a 2-year degree or go take some trade school, or you can bypass that and go work for somebody directly. Then, because experience is the best teacher. So if I go work for somebody, I remember when I was starting out, I knew a little bit, but the way I learned all the stuff that I know now, I started going to work for people for free. I knew this guy had the information that I needed. So you know what? Hey, when you got a job doing XYZ, let me know. I want to come in and shadow you on it. You ain't got to pay me nothing, because I was learning the skill. You got to know what's important. The skill is like people can't take away the skill from you. They can't take that part from you. You can go to college. I hear people talk about what you say a lot, like about college fail them. And they will, because they're only going to teach you what you need to know, but they don't give you the experience that you need. So you got to do some type of internship. Sometimes that don't work out the way you want it to. You're still trying to get a job. You got student loan and debt and all of this stuff, and you're trying to figure out how to make some money. You can't make money, so now you doing something completely different from what you went to school for. So it seems like it's a waste of time, and all you got is a degree. Versus somebody just say, hey, I'm good at this. Like stuff like even design work, artwork, like, graphic design, stuff like this is stuff that's popping, and you can always keep money flowing from that. So from my experience, for what I see in the industry, just out from what I see, I just think anything service, like these service-based businesses are the thing to move into, especially when you're talking about something that you can offer as a service, like a graphic designer, web developer, people who does websites, stuff like that. Like this is stuff that people need, that it's not going away. People don't know how to do this stuff. If you can learn the complexities of all this stuff and simplify for people and make it easy for them to consume, you can sell it. If you want to talk about blue collar, man, look, electricians ain't going nowhere. What can you do about electrician? You know what I mean?
Right. Plumbing ain't going nowhere either, probably.
Yeah, you can't do nothing without an electrician, a plumber, HVAC.
HVAC.
Come on, man.
Yeah.
Companies are booming, man. And let's not even talk about alarm. You don't even have to get in AV. Get into alarm systems. Then you get into recurring revenue. All you doing is easy. It's easy work. You know what I mean? Like alarm systems, AV, electrical, HVAC, plumbing. What else? I mean, take your pick, man. You can get in landscape, landscaping. People who cut and there's two different ways you can look at landscape. You can even be the person that cut grass, like just mow the lawn type, or you can be the person like the architect type that design these for builders, like for homes, for these big $1 million homes who want all these shrubs and all this stuff, irrigation systems. Stuff like, guys, like it's so many different ways you can skin a cat, but these are areas that are booming. And a lot of times they require you to be in a certain market, but people are not going into these areas. I don't see us in these areas as much as I see our counterpart.
Right.
And we got to change this up. We got to open our minds up. Us as parents got to start showing our kids a broader view of the world. I know I got 2 daughters, and my oldest daughter, she is an entrepreneur all day, like all day long. And what I do, I just allow her to express what she feels, like let it out. but I'm showing her like the different how entrepreneurship works and how it runs. And like you got to be able to use your mind. Like if you want to, like now she want to be a dog sitter. Okay, cool. Let's put it on the neighborhood thing and see if we can get some traction. But whatever it is that you want to do, there's gems out here, man. You just got to open up your mind and look at where the opportunity lies, and then do something that you would be cool with doing. Don't do HVAC because it makes a lot of money. Yeah, you can make a lot
That's
of
what
money.
happened to me. I mean, that's what happened to me. Like, there was no reason I should have been an electrical engineering major, to be honest with you. I really should have been an industrial engineering major, thinking about like systems and factories from that perspective. But, getting here, wiring stuff, that type of thing, that just ain't me. And I think, even if you're, I mean, I think that's the broader, I don't went rogue over here. So my green screen messed up over here. Give me 1 second. Let me turn this thing off real quick and turn it back on. Uh-oh. Yeah, there we go. But yeah. So I think that's the bigger purpose though, right? Or the bigger thing that people need to understand is that do what you are passionate about. What has a good market associated with it. What don't you mind doing, and also what are you actually good at? So if it is HVAC, go into HVAC. If it's something else, go into that thing. But I think a lot of times, parents put so much pressure on their children to go in a certain direction, and I think that can sometimes work out for the child, but then even if that child is making money, it leads to them not being fulfilled in their life as well. But
Fulfillment is big, man. Like
yeah,
you find fulfillment out of life, man. Like working just to make a bunch of money, man, and still be unhappy. I just don't get that equation. It
right,
just don't do much for me, man. You can really make a lot of money doing what you love to do and have a lot of time at the same time. You can really have the best of all worlds. But most
that's
people
right,
talk that they talk that they got that 9 to 5 mentality, and nobody is speaking life into them to let them know how this thing can really work. Like I let my daughter see day in and day out how daddy operates. So they see
yeah,
a mom that go to work, and she's a school teacher, so she makes a difference in people's lives doing it that way. But then my kids get to see their dad at home mostly because I do my
right,
work from here. I don't have to, even when I was doing my service-based business, I had a team doing the work. So my
yeah,
kids are used to seeing that dad. They don't know me for like the normal work, and they know it. I
right,
own my own business, and I got people. They call them workers. I got workers. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
yeah,
Nah, man. Yeah, I think it's awesome. I got a new nickname for you. I
what's
don't
it?
know. We'll see if it sticks. But the Reverend Doctor Blue Collar Scholar over here, the Reverend Doctor Blue Collar Business Scholar. That might be a little bit too long, but that's what you be preaching over here on these podcast interviews. But the Reverend Doctor Blue Collar Scholar. Let us know if you like that nickname in the chat, and also let us know if you want Dante to maybe teach a class regarding how to get into blue collar professions in the Black Business School, and how to start a business, once you get in there. Because there's a lot of money left on the table in construction and HVAC and electricity, or electricians, all those different types of things. So let us know if that's something that you'll be interested in. Please make sure you give this video a thumbs up, and also share and subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. Dante, how can people get in touch with you?
The best way to get in touch with me is one through my CEO Mindset LLC. That's just my public page. But if you guys are looking for community is key. You can join my private Facebook page, which is called the CEO Mindsetters with Dante Stevens. If you go on Facebook, if you Google Dante Stevens or look up CEO Mindset, you will see that come up in the search. That's where I live mostly. But that's just a community we built to have like I said earlier, people we need to be around. We need to be around like-minded individuals, and that's a community we built there. But if you want to reach out to me directly, you can reach me at info@dantestevens.com. You can get inquiries about working with me, my coaching program, stuff like that. And outside of that, man, you find me on Facebook. Like I said, info@dantestevens.com is the best place to reach me if you want to reach me directly. And I hope to see you guys on the other side.
All right, so let us know if you want a class on what I was just talking about in terms of getting into blue collar professions, and also succeeding in starting your own business. Dante, before we get out of here, I have 5 rapid fire questions for you.
Okay, let's go, man.
Number one, what is your favorite business book of all time?
Email.
So the E-Myth Revisited by Michael Gerber. Yep, is your favorite business book.
That
Number
one,
two,
I got a two-part. That one in profit first. I can't let
oh,
profit.
Profit First by Mike Michalowicz.
Yes,
So yep,
sir.
there's a Profit First as well. Okay. Number two, are there any CEOs or businesses that you're following that you're trying to emulate and implement into, I guess, your own life and your own company?
Man, I love Chick-fil-A. Just that's it. Like if you're not building your business like the Chick-fil-A model, I don't have to look at nobody else. I go sit at Chick-fil-A and just watch how they do things.
All right, cool. Number three, who's your favorite historical figure from Black history?
Oh man, that's a tough one. Uh, you know what, man? I'm not a real big history guy, but I tell you who inspired me the most, man, and I just got to give him up. I just got to go with John Lewis right now, man. I think
Okay.
he's because I'm not a big historian, right? Like that. So that's way. I'm still young a little bit, but but when I look back in history and look at what he done for us as a race, and just because I didn't really get a chance to follow up with him. I knew about him, but I did my research after the fact, and I realized this guy was pretty awesome, man. So rest in peace, John Lewis. But I gotta go John Lewis on this
All right. Number four, how many hours of sleep do you get at night?
one. Oh man, I'm up at 4 a.m. So I probably get anywhere between 6 to 8.
6 to 8. So that means you go to bed at what, 10?
I go to bed.
10 to
I
4.
go to
So it's eight, between 8 and 10, 8. Okay. You go to bed early.
between 8 and 10. I'm out, man. Cause
Okay.
I'm up at 4 a.m. I'm up
Yeah.
at
Yeah.
4 a.m.
Yeah.
every morning, man. I get my routine, get my day started at 4 a.m., man. So I'm up at 4 a.m.
All right. Cool. Cool. So last question. If you can go back in time, what advice would you give your 20-year-old self?
Oh man. You know what? My 20-year-old self, I would tell my 20-year-old self to get to know you better, get to know you more, get to know more about yourself before you get into any serious relationship across the board. I think as men, we just don't do a good job. As people, we don't do a good job of understanding who we are, and I think we waste a lot of years in our life not truly understanding who we are, mastering who we are, and then it comes up in different areas until you finally get conscious enough to say, "Hey, I need to go." That's why therapists and stuff make so much money because they help you go back to learn more about yourself. So I would tell my 20-year-old self to learn more about you.
Perfect, man. So Dante, thank you for being a guest on today's show. So as a reminder, everyone, I'm here with Dante Stevens. He's the founder and CEO of CEO Mindset, a company that helps entrepreneurs move from frustrated to free using business coaching. You can find out more about him at CEO Mindsetters. With Dante Stevens. It's a group on Facebook, so check that out as well. And he shared his information with you also. So today we've been talking all about his business, but then also about how blue collar, blue collar workers and service industry professionals can attain business freedom as well. So before you get out of here, if you have not done so far, please go ahead and press the thumbs up button, share this video, and subscribe to the Black Financial Channel if you'd like to receive more financial content like what we've been producing today here with Dante. So on behalf of Dante Stevens, my name is Lawrence Watkins. You all take care, be blessed, and have a wonderful day. All right, bye-bye.